Hi, I'm Charlotte, founder of Help Me Leave,
And I'm Rez, co-host.
and welcome to the After I Left Stories of Migration podcast. Our very first guest is Jey Poston, one of the first American refugees to apply for asylum in the Netherlands in 2025. Hey Jey, how are you
Hey,
doing?
I'm doing okay today. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's great to have
Hey,
you.
Jay.
Yeah,
Jay and I go back since childhood, so we're fairly familiar with each other. Although we have recently reconnected. We went our separate ways for a while, but we've been able to reconnect now. And as a matter of fact, Jay was the main influence in helping get me and my partner out. So we're very thankful to have a lot of insight and information on leaving the United States, the dangers and everything, and why we left. So thank you so much for coming on, Jay.
yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and where you're from?
So as we've already discussed, I'm an American currently seeking asylum in the Netherlands. I am here with my family. We are a 9-person family unit, 5 adults, 4 children that we all share between us. We did originally come here with 10 people total, but we have amply ended up parting ways with one of the other adults. So we came here as a 10-person family unit, and shocked IND beyond knowing what to do with us. We got lost in the system several times because they just didn't know what to do with a unit that size. I am a transgender man. One of my other partners, one of the other adults in our family, is also transgender. We have some physical disability needs in our family, as well as some neurodivergent needs. Our children have varying levels of autism. And we left the United States very beginning of this year. We landed in Amsterdam, January 2025. And I've started working with Charlotte about 2 months ago. I've been writing reports and I guess analogies and comparisons about the political climate and what's going on in the United States for over a year now. I've been self-publishing those on social media, things of that nature. And now I'm working with Help Me Leave and doing a lot of the support team work there as far as I'm kind of manage the support team department. We're the ones to talk to people and actually help them sort through their options or execute their plan, whatever kind of accountability they need. That's kind of the service I help HML provide.
Amazing. So let's just go back to the moment when you knew you needed to leave. Tell me a bit about it. Like, where were you? What were you doing? When was it?
So there was kind of 2 different types of those moments. There was the, oh shit, we have to go moment. And then there was the shit, we have to go right now moment. Which one, for purposes of this, would you want to hear?
Well, let's talk about them in order. Let's start with the moment when you felt like you needed to get your stuff together and it was time to get going.
It was time to get going in July of 2024. I am a paralegal. I'm a legal researcher. And I had been keeping an eye on Supreme Court in the United States since the Dobbs case, and I believe 2022, where they overturned Roe versus Wade, which for people who are not American, Roe versus Wade guaranteed federal rights for a woman to seek abortion care if need be, but it also had a lot to do with personal privacy and privacy laws that set the tone for like the HIPAA Act, the Medical Privacy Act. All of those things started with Roe versus Wade. And so when they overturned that, that was really alarming to me in 2022. In 2024, they released about five different cases at the end of their spring term. And the rulings on those cases absolutely scared the shit out of me. In one session, they, from what I could see, had basically dismantled the ability for the scale of checks and balances to work for the American government. And that was the first, oh, we're cooked. We got to go. We got to leave.
So
and that's when we
you
started
knew
looking
that
at the visa routes.
summer 24, even before the election, you had that feeling that you were going to need to move. So when was the, oh shit, we really, really got to go moment for you?
The election.
I do remember, back in when they did overturn Roe v. Wade, that was kind of my also awakening, like, ooh, things are gonna change, and they're gonna change rapidly. I will say, Jay, give Jay a lot of credit here. They predicted it a lot quicker than me. I had no idea that within 6 months, I would need to leave the United States after Trump's election. I did think things would move a lot slower. And before talking with Jay and them really helping us get my partner and I, we're both non-binary, non-gender conforming, that I didn't realize it was like that big of a like oh shit moment, like it's happening. So I do want to give Jay a lot of credit in being able to predict that and how quickly and how serious it was going to be, because that was something that I didn't hear anyone else in the United States taking that seriously. And I do think Jay's insight, being a paralegal and being more knowledgeable on the legal side of things, has been huge, not only for the organization that we're with, Help Me Leave, but also in again helping my partner and I get out. I'm very thankful for that, and I'm so happy to be able to speak to you and hear your insights on this today.
So you have a large family unit. Was everybody on board with the idea? Did you have to persuade anybody?
Then not really, no. Even my partner Caleb, my legal partner, even his only reservation was that he thought it would be years. He thought that the process that I was talking about seeing coming down the pike, he was like, yeah, absolutely, definitely gonna happen over like the next 5 years. It's really, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But the rest of the family was it might be quicker than that. And also we were going for the visa routes initially. So we thought, let's get out early, make it a little bit easier. And so there was no kind of having to persuade him. He was like, yeah, we can leave early. That's fine. Even if this takes 5 years, that's fine. That was the only even, I guess, differing of concern.
Can
And was there
you
anything?
go? I'm sorry. Can you go ahead and a little bit into what it was like, as far as having a larger family unit, having maybe a polycule or whatever it is that y'all, again, y'all is a Southern term, so if you don't understand what it means, you all. How did that discussion go between multiple people? Because even just for me and my partner being just two people, it was a decision. So how did that go for y'all?
It was kind of like smaller groups at first. So first talked to Kayla and Caleb, and then talked to Christopher and Mia, and it was a consideration mostly of the kid from all the adult parties' initial, I guess, perspectives. We had already had to start homeschooling our children. There had actually been a shooting on the campus that our oldest two have been attending. They're in elementary school because we have 9 to 3, 4, 9 to 3. But the high school and the middle school are on the same campus. And the actual AR-15 was brought to the high school directly across from school where our oldest two had been enrolled. And so we had already started homeschooling our kids. We had already been talking about selling a house and buying land and mini housing it and just going up there. We had already been ready to be done with this. And so when those cases came out and I realized just how serious this could get, just how fast, we kind of talked through it all. Our other partner, Sky, was also terrified, very aware of what was going on, and came with us. And I have to say that I don't really know that he would actually be with us still if he had not left with us, and we had not all left when we did. He's had some more health complications in the time that we've been gone, that if we had been in the States and those complications had happened, they would have been over.
So was there anything holding you back? Was there anything that you thought maybe it isn't right? It sounds like it pretty quickly all of you came to a place of agreement, but did anything hold you back?
Our only, I guess, real hesitations came in how to execute. So we tried really hard to stick to the visa path. We really wanted to go that route. We have various degrees, different 10-year experiences. My partner built 5G cell towers for years. That's a very niche. Visas we thought for sure we could get, and we thought Kamala Harris was going to win the election. We honestly, from whatever naivety we had, we honestly thought surely not this time. Probably next time, but not this time. Surely there's been enough damage and harm done, especially through COVID and the horrible butchering of the handling of COVID. Surely not this time. And when we went to bed that night, probably a little after midnight, and it was already basically landslide. There was no way in hell that it was going to change before the next morning. And we woke up the next morning, sure enough, and announced that he had won. And we were like, well, we don't have 6 to 8 months to wait through his presidency to hope that visas come through. that's not a survivable option for us because the tensions in our local area are already that intense. And it got so much worse after the election that the fire that got lit by the election just grew until we actually boarded the plane on January
Yeah.
19th.
Yeah, I can also attest to that as well. Having been an American and going through the election and everything, I truly believe that Kamala was going to win as well. At the time, I didn't realize how much money had been poured into the Trump campaign, and I did not realize the significance. I suppose it was a little bit of a ostrich head in the sand, even though that's a myth. Type of feeling, like we're trying to stay secure, trying to keep that your mental fortitude up, and not expect the worst.
So tell me a bit about how you got yourself ready to leave, because it sounds like you had a lot going on, lot of moving parts. How did you approach the momentous task of getting your family unit out?
It was definitely a co-op effort. I spearheaded a lot of the research into locations, into methods, into double and triple checking that we were doing everything the most correct way possible, because especially at the point where we knew that we were now going to have to seek asylum, we knew that we were going to have an uphill battle. We knew that we were going to have to go to anywhere we went to would probably have the safe country of origin list. The U.S. is on almost all of those. And so there was going to be an uphill legal battle. So a lot of what I did was documentation preparation. So I did a lot of the evidence putting together. I did some writing kind of explaining how the evidence worked. I kept up with what kind of documents everybody needed to be able to internationally travel. We had to learn a lot. None of us, I don't think, had, except for maybe Caleb, traveled outside of the country for any meaningful amount of time, and definitely through flight. And none of us had done it with children, or with someone who is a full-time wheelchair user, or with a 115-pound psycho service animal. We had never had to travel, 13-ish hours with all of that going on. So fortunately, we all had different strengths, and different skill sets that made it to where we were able to parse off, organizing what we absolutely needed to have and getting rid of the rest of it was able to be handled by this person. Figuring out finances was a group decision, but Chris and I mostly handled, the actual management of the financial aspect. We had enough bodies and enough brains with enough skills that we were able to get it done and leave. But when I tell you that it was probably 3 straight months of a full-time job to prepare to extradite, or not extradite, but to evacuate 10 people halfway across the planet, it was, about 3 months of a full-time job.
I mean, so I'm also an immigrant, and I moved from the UK to France, under very different circumstances, but with a 4-month-old baby and a 3-year-old, and it was really difficult. And I wasn't doing it from a place of like fear and desire to get out as fast as possible. So I can't even begin to imagine what that process must have been like for you guys. When you told other people that this is what you were doing, what was their reaction?
Wasn't great for most of it. We had some friends who were at all similarly situated as us that were also considering the possibility of, leaving versus going underground, things like that. So we had some friends that were super supportive of our own and understanding of why we felt like this is what we needed to do. What little family contact remained, many of us adults of the family have contact with our bio families left. I have some contact with bio family, and Sky has some contact with bio family, and that at this point is actually it. So the 2 families that did get actually communicated with tried to handle it as gracefully as possible, I would think. But it was very, very difficult. And when you make a choice like that to leave family, especially family who does not believe that your fears are valid, because they personally themselves don't understand why it would be a problem, or that the problem doesn't apply to them, or that, for instance, in one of my family's cases, they don't acknowledge alternate gender identity, so acknowledging them would require to acknowledge a problem, and they can't do either of those things. There were some hurtful things said, there were some bitter things said. There is still some contact, but us making that choice really ended a lot of relationships.
Yeah, I can definitely sympathize with that, as For me, as you know, Jay, my family. I've had zero contact. So that was not nearly as difficult for me because those decisions had all been made years ago that they did not agree with me or my lifestyle, especially with me not being Christian, being at most agnostic. So that was not as difficult for me, but I can definitely say for my partner Alex, that was basically the breaking point for them with their family, and now they're rebuilding some contact with their siblings. But yeah, it was basically the breaking point. As a matter of fact, you know, we left basically without them knowing. They didn't know where we were until after we were here. So I can definitely sympathize with that. And I'm sure that a lot of the people that will be listening to this that are facing this decision, that's definitely something that you will have to come to terms with. And it is going to be difficult, but something that I keep reminding myself throughout this entire ordeal. And something that Jay definitely helped with whenever we were leaving is you got to put your oxygen mask on first. You cannot help others if you're not safe or you're not, being able to breathe yourself. So that's definitely something that's important to remember. And I know it was a very difficult decision for you, Jay. So tell me about how did the departure go? Like the days leading up to that, how, I know for us, you start getting more and more nervous. You start thinking, what the hell am I doing? How did that go with you and your family?
It was a lot of high stress, high tension, high vulnerability. Like going through the last week or so, I had a tote, a massive one of the big, I think it was like a 20-gallon tote or whatever, full of old photos, like childhood photos that I was going to go through, take pictures of to save, and it accidentally got taken to the dump, and we were not able to find it, and it was
Oh no.
most of like my childhood's worth of photos. I have a dissociative disorder, so I don't have a ton of like of my own actual memories. Photos are one of the main ways that I keep track of time and experiences. So losing that, I don't remember several days. That stress was super super intense for me personally. And then it was like the day before, and there was so much heavy. It was just heavy. Those last few days were heavy. Yeah, I guess that's the answer. It was heavy.
I think it's one of the reasons that we felt like Help Me Leave was needed, because so much of the narrative around moving, immigrating, is all around how exciting your new life, chance to go off, and it's all focused on the forward bit, which is great. But actually, when you're moving under these circumstances, it isn't that kind of decision at all. And one of the reasons that we're building the community we're building is so that as people leave family, whether that's willingly or not, and as they leave things behind, they have a kind of slightly safe place to catch them as they land. It's I'm so sorry to hear that even in those bits you weren't able to necessarily do the things you wanted to do. It seems very unfair.
That yeah, it was definitely difficult, but I will say, part of the reason that I kept doing what I was doing as far as the documentation goes, one of the smaller sub reasons that my family and I left to seek asylum is that I knew with the work that I was doing as far as documenting, archiving, criticizing openly the current administration, that I would not be able to continue to do any of that kind of work. I was not going to be able to continue to spread any of that information if I stayed within the borders of the United States without subsequently painting targets across all of my family's back. And I simply wasn't going to do that. One of the reasons I left was that so that I could continue to work to get others out and to get people to understand what was going on without worrying about my children's safety. And for me, leaving was almost, from that aspect, it was almost a duty because I would not have survived if I stayed. I was not going to put my children at risk to keep doing the work, so I wouldn't have been able to do it. I had to go.
Yeah.
What was it? I think it's a Pirates of the Caribbean. You have to fight in order to run away. It was a
Yeah.
little bit reverse of that. I had to run away in order to fight, create the space in order to be able to stance.
And that was something. I mean, I'm very grateful for. Again, for me, for my partner and I, we would still be in the United States if it was not for Jay. So, kind of harkening back to that oxygen mask first, that was so important, and that is something that I do, want everyone to remember that's listening to this and considering leaving the United States for your own safety. Is you have to take care of yourself first, even though that's very difficult, especially for a lot of us that are neurodivergent in our sense of innate justice and fairness. It made me feel a little bit guilty, feeling like I was, taking care of myself. What about all these other people who can't? So that's a strength that I believe is underrated, and I think is a wonderful thing that you were able to do that, again, on your own. We had your support through this process. So I can't stress enough the importance or the strength that it took for Jay and their family to leave and then help others get out at the same time. On to a little bit more of a brighter note. Now that you have arrived in the Netherlands, you are working with this organization, you have been able to help get other people out. What has been, your experience? What was it like post arriving in the Netherlands, and maybe some more of the positive interactions and surprising things that you have run into since you've landed here in the Netherlands?
Oh wow. I will say from the jump, we arrived in Amsterdam through the international airport, and we were told we just had to be in Terapel to apply for asylum within 90 days. So we were like, oh shit, we got to figure out hotels and things like that. So we're able to do that. But even then, stepping out of the airport and noticing that the air was different. It
Absolutely.
was cleaner. It didn't smell wrong. That was one of the first things that just the stark difference just in the air. And then we went to the hotel, got to the hotel finally, and we were looking for places to fill up our water bottles, and we didn't see any like fountains or anything. And they were like, you can do it in the sink. The water here is clean.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yes, I remember
y'all
that.
just drink tap water out of a hotel? It's safe? Oh my God. Because we had to stay the night in a Philly hotel. Buddy, I promise you, I would not have drank the water out of a Philly tap if you paid me several $1,000s. Wouldn't have done it. But so that was stark and new. After that, the actual asylum process is hard. It is brutal. It is, you feel very isolated. You, especially if you are of some other minority, whether that be transgender or obviously queer or visibly disabled, it is a very hard process, especially initially. The first part, getting through the intake process, is very hard. But I will say that even through all of the hard and the difficult and the suspension of reality, the only thing that exists is the moment. There is no before. Behind is a nightmare. There is no back. There's only now, because you don't know when the next thing is going to happen. It's hurry up and wait. You're just present moment is all you have. And especially for people who are neurodiverse, that is a painful experience. But the kindness that we have received here, the patience, the genuine benevolence from a majority of the human interactions that I personally have had since being in the Netherlands, showed me that the first thing, the baseline of violence and aggression in America is so much higher than anywhere in the world understands. And it is a truly rough and a brutal place to live. And two, I did not know that this level of generosity and kindness was available at like a social level. Never occurred to me that it was possible for people to just be kind or mind their damn business. Those are the two options that I have seen since being in the Netherlands. I have felt more safe, and I actually will say that I felt more safe inside the camp in Terapel than I did on an average run to the grocery store in the United States. So those are some of the big changes. Is the air is clean, the water is clean, the people are kind, and safety can exist elsewhere.
How did you help your kids navigate the intensity of that early bit where everything was very different and they'd left behind everything they knew? That sounds really difficult.
With the kids, we kept them together as possible. We definitely had some difficulties with some parts of the process where our family unit case actually got split up into multiple asylum claims. And so there were some housing difficulties that we experienced. But as long as we were able to keep the kids together and we had a consistent routine set up for the children. So the children got up and ate breakfast at this time, the children played outside for this amount of time, the children did this thing for this amount of time, they had game time, they had dinner time, they had bath time. Holding the routine for the children, despite the chaos, as much as possible, we held the routine. I think that made a difference. I think the amount of hands available, the children never had less than 2 parents accessible to them at any point through this process. And having each other, I think, helped. I think it would be really difficult, probably more difficult for a single child to go through the process, if I'm being super honest. Having the sibling aspect, I think, was helpful for the children. And then once we got outside of travel, they were able to start school and have been able to have a lot of normal social interactions that wouldn't have been available to them in the States, because they weren't even allowed to go to school in the States because it was just too damn dangerous. So they have actually probably had a better experience of this part of what childhood should be than any of us as their parents had as kids. And that's been a really awesome thing to say. I'm not saying there haven't been some serious stress times. We've seen some behavioral regressions because of stress, things like that. But we don't have kids that are having nightmares every night. They're not having, fear-based bedwetting issues. They're eating better than they ever have before in their life. Let me tell you right now, our FID is a bitch. And it's almost gone from our oldest. It's amazing. As long as you can support them, the younger kids, for sure, it is a survivable thing to do. And I truly believe that our kids will get through this entire process without any severe trauma. I just don't think that they have been severely traumatized. And I think what some anxieties and things may have started through this process, we know for a fact they now actually have the support to learn to cope and manage with.
Yeah, my partner also has ARFID as well, so I can definitely attest to they are eating better than I've seen them eat ever. And I will say I think it has a lot to do with the food processing. So much is processed in the United States. You're geared towards what's the cheapest and what's going to make the company the most money. Having access to fresh, affordable food here has been amazing. I can definitely attest to that.
We've covered a lot today, Jey. With the benefit of some distance and some hindsight, how do you feel about the decision to leave? Is there anything you'd change?
No. Left when we needed to. That has only been affirmed repeatedly over this process. Yeah, no, absolutely not. I would do it all over again for the same reasons, with the same people. I'd do it all over again.
Thank you so much. So we're coming up to the end of this first episode. We're actually going to be talking to Jey again next time, but this time with a focus on his work with Help Me Leave, his work with the Dutch Parliament and other international governments as well, and also his investigative journalistic writing. So thank you so much for your time, Jey, and we will speak to you again very soon.
Thanks so much.
having me.
It was great speaking to you.